Today, we welcome Byron from Snakes for Africa. In this podcast, we cover a comprehensive range of topics related to snake husbandry, addressing not only the joys of snake ownership, but also the responsibilities that come with ensuring the well-being of these fascinating reptiles. I hope you enjoy this podcast. And so in part one, we spoke about general husbandry of having a pet snake. Now, a lot of what you do is involved in handling snakes in the wild, or helping people manage a snake in their homes. So talk to me about, it's winter, you're not that busy at the moment. Why is that?
So this is why I've got time to do podcasts.
I know, thank you.
Same with the reptile husbandry thing, we can talk about it for hours and never get tired of it. So with the snakes in the wild, similar thing, we can talk for hours. But the very basis of this, reptiles are cold-blooded, which means they rely on external temperatures for their activity. So when it is cold, they can't digest their food. We, ironically, eat more food when it's cold in order to create our own body heat. So they're less active during winter because it's cold. They can't eat, they don't want to eat, so they're not hunting. People do find snakes in winter, funny enough, when they are clearing out their garden sheds and the places where they've eventually decided it's not too hot to go and do this, it's not February, it's not 40 degrees, so they go and clean the garden sheds and they then find snakes. But the snakes aren't active. So during winter, snakes don't disappear. People often think that the snakes disappear. Well, they can't disappear because they can't reinvent themselves in summer. They just go somewhere quiet and secluded. And here in Durban, they don't truly actually hibernate. It doesn't get cold enough to hibernate, but they are far less active. On a warm, sunny day, like today actually is a nice, warm, sunny day, there's a possibility that the bigger guys, like the mambas and the cobras and the pythons, will be out basking in the sun. So on a warm, mid-winter's day, we get the big guys. We also, funny enough, get certain species like the herald snake. They don't care. They're bulletproof. They will go and eat frogs on the frosted lawn in the middle of winter in Howick. But generally, snakes are less active during winter. So then summer, it's hot. It's generally their breeding season. Their prey is active because they often eat warm-blooded things, cold-blooded things as well, like lizards and frogs. So their prey is active and abundant. So the whole thing lends itself towards summer activity, which I can well relate to. I'd also rather sleep in winter and be active during summer.
Me too. So you get a phone call and someone has come across a snake. What are the things you ask them? What are the information that you gather at the time of, because most people, I'm sure, they phone in a panic. They haven't taken the time to assess the situation.
So having done this for many, many years, there's a few questions that you just know you have to ask. And the one that you forget is always the pertinent one, the relevant one that hurts that call. So the first thing we ask is, when did you actually see the snake? Okay, if we're going to respond to the call out, when did you see the snake? Sometimes it's last week and now they're worried. Then it's a calmer conversation. The next thing we ask is roughly how big. People are never accurate. Never. Bear in mind they've got a fright. They've lifted up their pool filter cover, or they've walked into the lounge and there's a snake on the curtain rail, or they've got a fright. So size is it's always going to be exaggerated. Color and what is it doing? Certain species, when I say what is it doing, like it's not studying, it's not riding a bicycle. What is it doing? Where is it? Is it in your cupboard? Is it on your curtain rail? Is it in the hedge? Is it in your car? Where is the thing? Because certain species do certain things. Okay, so there's overlaps with all of them, but or some of them. So it's when did you last see it? General size, general color, general shape, and what is it doing? That's what we ask.
And most people can't identify what they're seeing.
No, they can't.
Or are they getting better?
Well, no, they're not getting better. No, they're not. And most of my calls start with, hey, Byron, I've got a black mamba in my pool filter cover. So it's not a snake. He's already told me it's a black mamba. Straight away, it's not, but you don't want to antagonize the person. Dude, you've got a snake. We don't now need to identify it. If you're that terrified, I'll happily come out and remove it for you. So we then engage. Is the snake indoors or outdoors? If it's indoors, most people, regardless of whether it's venomous or harmless, they don't care, they want it out. And they also don't want to do it themselves. So most people, regardless if it's indoors, I'll then go and take it out. If it's outdoors, we've then now got options. Are you happy to leave it there? Well, it depends. Is it a venomous species? Is it potentially going to eat my pets or kill my kids? If it is a venomous species and it's outdoors, we probably still want it removed. If it's a harmless species and it's outdoors, in the hedge, in the bougainvillea, underneath your pool filter cover that you check once every 3 weeks, they're often happy to just leave it there. So there's a whole lot of things going. And what I am finding where people are getting better is if it is harmless, they're often happy to leave it, indoors or outdoors. I've got people that phone me from the Kloof area. There's a certain species of snake called a spotted house snake. It's quite rare and quite unusual and
What
quite
do they look
localized.
like? Describe one. How do you...
They look like a night adder. So they're a medium-sized snake, probably around about 50 to 70 centimeters long, brownish, tan brown with little brown circles down its back. Not chevrons like a night adder, but circles. They're similar, but not the same as a night adder. They're active at night, and they're often up around the lights looking for geckos. So they're localized, they're fairly rare, they're special little things. And I've got a variety or a number of people where I've caught several at their house. Now, what they're doing is they're phoning me or sending me a photo of the snake. Is this the same guy? Yes, it is. Awesome, we're happy to leave it there. We've just watched it eat a gecko. So that's cool. So people are getting better because they know they're harmless. The bush snakes as well, the long, skinny green ones. I've actually brought one here to show you.
Oh, please do.
I'm going to show you Durban's most common species. So this guy here.
Please excuse me for not putting my hand out too.
No, that's fine. They do bite. He likes the look of you.
Hello.
Okay, so this is Durban's most common species, and you can see what he's trying to do. He's looking to climb. They're a climbing species. I don't know if you can pick up the color on the camera, but it's a bright, vibrant green. They've got black spots on the front half of their body, and between their scales, you've got a sort of turquoisey color. So they're really, really pretty. And as I said at the start, Durban's most common species. We find these everywhere. And most people, if they describe this to me, long, skinny green snake, black spots on the front half, it's outdoors or it's up in the rafters, up in the roof, we just leave it.
Okay.
Another thing as well, if it is up on your roof, I'm not going to come and catch that thing.
Why not?
They they don't run, they don't have legs, but they move so quickly through the rafters and the eaves that I look like a fool. And you can spend hours trying to catch them and never catch them. So if it is up on your roof and your rafters, just leave him alone. He's up there looking for geckos. Where were we going with this?
So how old would he be?
How old? That's impossible to say. They grow according to what they eat. It's an adult, I can tell you that much, so it's at least 3 years old. But it could be anywhere between 3 and 15. It's a decent size. I would estimate it's relatively old because its condition is not young and vibrant. It's got that sort of slightly aged look. So I would say it's probably in excess of 10 years old.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So this is a common snake in...
Unbelievably common. It's by far Durban's most common species, and fortunately, completely harmless. They come around looking for geckos and lizards, and they're harmless, they're inoffensive. They're actually quite sort of inquisitive things. Often they move their head around looking to see what you're doing, almost like they're interacting with you. What are you looking for? I'm looking for geckos. Have you seen a gecko? Oh, okay. Well, you know help. So they're pretty cool. They're nice little guys.
Welcome back to Just for Pets. You're with Dr. Carra.
Hi, Doc. It's Jackson the Jack Rossi here, and boy am I itchy.
Are you on a hypoallergenic diet?
Hyper what now?
Changing to a special diet will really help. And Just for Pets have a massive range. And flea and tick medication, special shampoo.
Ooh, how quick can you get some?
Order today and we'll deliver pronto.
I feel better already.
Justforpets.co.za. Vet approved, pet adored. Get it all to your door.
Let's get back to our conversation on the Paws Effect podcast. So what are the ones that people, obviously the venomous ones, it's an obvious answer, but what are people concerned about? Is it the fact that they can't ID them and so they're not sure whether they're venomous or not? Or is it just a general fear of snakes because they're unfamiliar with them?
Exactly both of what you said. Okay. And it varies across the board. People are scared of snakes in general. They also know that although some are harmless, they don't know well enough to know. So some of the calls I get are just straight IDs. What is this? It's this color, this shape, this. I tell them what it is. Perfect, that's all we needed to know. That's it. Some of the calls go that way and they say, right, now we need it removed. We're scared, we don't care. I know you've told us it's a house snake, but it's literally in our garage and we just can't. So
if I wanted to ID a snake, where, in terms of resources, if you're not available, because I'm sure you're harassed all the time with photographs of please identify this, where can people go to look and identify what they're seeing?
The interweb is a scary place,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you why. If you were to type in a description of the snake, let's say herald snake, little common harmless herald snake, medium-sized grey-coloured snake, Durban, you are guaranteed to pop up with a black mamba. And when you look at that picture of that black mamba compared to what you saw in the garden, they look the same. And vice versa. So you might have the other thing where you type into Google search, whatever, grey snake, Durban, pool filter cover. Might pop up a picture of a herald, whereas it's actually a black mamba. So it is very tricky. There is a website. Am I allowed to punt a website?
Yes,
It's called the ASI, or African Snakebite Institute website.
Okay.
You can you download, it's a free app on your phone. You can download that app free, and you can upload your picture to that site, and they've got experts who will identify that snake quickly for
Fantastic.
you. Okay. Or you can just browse through and see, and they've got a variety of different pictures. But be very careful of the internet, because South Africa is a very small part of the internet. So when you search for a grey snake or a brown snake or a green snake, it's showing you the largest area on the internet is America. So you're going to get all their options first. Then you're going to get Asia. Then you're going to get
It's a lot
eventually.
of miscommunication.
So there's a lot of miscommunication. Also, what we call a mole snake here is not the same as what someone else might call a mole snake. So the internet is a dangerous place. It is probably the best place. I'm still old school, so I have. Some of you may have even heard of these things. They're called books.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
where things made of paper,
Yeah.
and it's got pictures in there. That's how I learned snakes. The problem with books, if there is a problem, I don't believe there's a problem, but the problem with books is you have one or two pictures, certain lighting, certain angle, and if you see your animal at a different angle, different lighting, might not look the same. Whereas on the internet, there's often far more options. So what I would suggest anybody would do is, in your area, there's always going to be a snake guy. Okay, there's always a snake guy. Find out who it is, and on that website as well, they've normally got a list of who's local in your area. But send a picture to an expert if you can take a picture. Don't get yourself into risk now trying to photograph an angry black mamba with your cell phone just to get a photo of it.
Stay away.
The super cool thing with cell phones now, though, is they're happier to take photos of things they wouldn't normally have taken photos of. I get photos of a snake that looks like a fan belt in a bush 3 kilometers away,
Oh my goodness.
and you're asked to identify that. But still, it does sometimes.
Rather the effort. So we're talking, obviously, things are fine, you're just identifying from a distance, but what happens if there's an incident? So you come across a snake, you get bitten, or your dogs, we'll discuss that in further detail, hopefully, but you come across and you have an incident with a snake. I know this is obviously a bit of a scary
It is very
situation.
scary, yeah.
What do you do?
So it's an absolutely terrifying thing. I mean, it's a thing that we all hear about, and you hope to goodness that it never happens to you. And it suddenly does. I get those calls all the time. Byron, I've had your phone number in my phone for 15 years, and now today is the day I need it. And here it is, my dog's been bitten. So the first thing you do is get your dog away from the snake. Your dog or your child, get it away from the snakes. People say, I can't, the dog. Get the dog away from the snake. It is your dog, get it away from the snake. However you've got to do it. Your dog may have killed the snake, your cat may have killed the snake, get them out of the situation. Because a second or third bite is just going to make the situation worse. Once you've done that, there's a couple of options. If the snake is still present, live or dead, it is great to take a photograph of it. You may take it to the vet or the doctor, just warn them that there's a snake in the bag. I've seen accidents happen there as well, where a live snake arrives and there's a second or third bite. It is not essential to identify the snake, but it is infinitely better to identify the snake. Might be a house snake, wasting your time going to the vet. You don't need to put the dog overnight at costs and space and whatever. It might be a black mamba, and we know the dog is going to be in serious trouble very, very quickly. So it is better to identify the snake. Right, so you've got the snake scenarios now assessed. You've either photographed it, it's live or dead, you either have it or you don't have it. What do you now then do with your dog or your cat? And this is where it gets contentious, because there's costs involved. If it was your child, there wouldn't be a question. You would take it straight to hospital. For some reason, pets, there's a grey area. Is it going to cost money? Yes, it's going to cost money. Okay. Some practices will take in animals and assess them first. Most won't, and it can be costly. If your dog is bitten by a black mamba and it needs 5 vials of antivenom, that's going to cost you in the region of 10 to 20,000 rand. And you need to be aware of that. And I don't want to say this against pets. If it was your child, there wouldn't be a question. Some people, if it's a cost issue and you can't afford it and your dog is going to die, and your dog is going to die rapidly from a black mamba bite. So to incur the 20,000 rand cost might be something you don't want to do. Anyway, I'm not saying which is right or wrong. It's a very, very contentious issue. I would suggest any snake bite on a dog or a cat, you get them straight to the vet as quickly as possible. Cost issues aside, that would be my advice. Because things escalate incredibly quickly. I have seen little dogs survive big snake bites, And I've seen big dogs crash within 20 minutes of being bitten by a snake, and they're dead.
And is that a time thing, or is that an individual
Yeah, it's a bit of both.
response?
We could talk about this for quite long as well.
Because I want to understand, is it the bite, is it the amount of venom that they're injecting?
There's a whole lot goes into it. And there's anecdotal stories I could talk about for days with this group of dogs and that group of dogs and that type of dogs. Certain breeds of dogs, I nearly said species, but they're the same species. Certain breeds, like German Shepherds, they crash incredibly quickly from black mamba bites, like so quickly. Then I've seen little Jack Russells that weigh a tenth of what the German Shepherd weighs, like brush it off, like they survive. And the German Shepherd is dead within 20 minutes of the bite. So I think it's a breed-related thing. Might be a thickness of the skin, I don't know. It might be certain aspects of the dogs. They're so far from their original form, and they've all gone different ways. I, in fact, encountered a Yorkie that was 100% bitten by a black mamba. A Yorkie, I don't think the thing weighs a kilogram, and it survived the bite. And then I've arrived with Rottweilers, German Shepherds, Boerwolves. Funny enough, the big dumb dogs, no offense meant big dumb dogs, but the big short-haired dogs don't tend to get bitten as often as the longer-haired, more active dogs. So the collies, the German Shepherds, the Labradors, they're the ones encountering snakes. The Jack Russells, always. Okay, so
they're just inquisitive, and
they're inquisitive and they're active and they're alert. And the sad thing is, we often see the dogs as saving us from the snakes, and it's not necessarily, that might not be a savior thing. Might be, I'm not saying they're not, but it's an interest in something that they should have rather just stayed away from. And they're generally the same type of dogs. If they see a rat or a bird on the floor, they'll chase that as well. So it's not always a protection thing. It's an interest and maybe a hunting thing, and they'll end up coming off very second best.
And now, a word from our amazing sponsors who make the Paws Effect podcast possible. To make a promise implies trust. To make a pledge creates expectation. And to make a commitment initiates responsibility. For more than 25 years, we have made it our mission to take the ifs, buts, and maybes out of premium pet food. That's why our experts put the best science behind our food, so your pet's health is put first. That's why, when you seek value, we strive to give you more, like protecting your pets with our free accident benefits. And when you need great tasting food, our fresh meat taste delivers. You see, what sets us apart is not one thing, it's all these things combined. Because we understand that when it comes to your pet's health, you don't want doubt and uncertainty. You want absolutes, the absolute best given your means, like premium veterinary quality food of real value that doesn't cost an arm and a paw. So, rest assured that any claim we make, we stand by. It's our commitment to your pets and our promise to you. In fact, we're so confident in what we stand for that we have made the ultimate promise to you. It's called the Ultra Pet Promise, 100% money-back guarantee, a no ifs, no buts, and no maybes kind of promise. We call it our satisfaction guarantee. Let's get back to our conversation on the Paws Effect podcast. So when they end up at the practice, you often get a phone call where we're saying, please help, especially if it's in pieces and you've got part snake, please help us identify this. Let's talk venom, antivenom, and to give or not to give, because you often have a snake to identify, and that makes it a little bit easier, but sometimes you don't.
No. And also, even if you do have the snake to identify and it is a deadly species, did it actually bite the dog? Some of these dogs are so quick, and cats particularly. Cats, for some reason, very seldom actually tend to get bitten. They do, but very, very seldom. And sometimes a dog grabs hold of that snake so quickly and shakes it that the snake doesn't actually even bite the dog, or does, and no venom goes in. So let's say you've got this scenario now. Dog arrives at the practice and is bitten by a dangerous snake. It's not a house snake. It's a night adder or a spitting cobra or a black mamba, and you're now in trouble. So we then decide, what are we going to do? I'm not a vet. I've seen enough bites to have an idea. But if a dog is bitten by a black mamba or a spitting cobra or a puff adder, don't waste time giving antivenom. If you have antivenom, give it. It's what you've got it for. Some people think, no, they're going to save it for the rain, but it's raining. This is the rainy day you've saved that antivenom for. Right now as we speak, and I know these podcasts can last for years, so in 5 years' time this might not be relevant, but right now, there's a nationwide shortage of antivenom. So it is currently frowned to waste antivenom on pets, and it's a contentious thing, and it really is hard. Where with a nationwide shortage, if that dog is likely to die with or without antivenom, it's frowned upon to give the antivenom now, and it's tricky. The person's got the money, they've got the time, they've got the dog. What do you do? So as a vet, you would then need to assess that. As a homeowner, as a dog owner, as a pet owner, don't waste time. The longer you wait, the harder it is for that dog or that animal to recover. Cost issues aside, they always come into it. Some people with medical aid, so cost issues aren't a problem, but it is a costly thing to give anything,
It
human
requires
or
a lot of supportive treatments, not just
very much
antivenom fluids and
Correct.
anti-inflammatories and pain relief.
Correct. So for a mama bite, no. The mama bite, they're in, they get the antivenom, they're out the next day, live or dead, whichever way it goes. And it's quick. The mamba they either die or they live and they're fine. Then you get the spitting cobras and the puff adders and the night adders, where that is a long process. It causes swelling, it causes inflammation, it causes burst tissue, it causes liver failure. It's hectic. So a little snake bite that took less than 30 seconds, less than 3 seconds, is now taking months sometimes to recover. And I do get the calls because I'm not the vet. Hey, my vet did this, my vet did that. The thing cost 3,000 Rand for this, and it took 3 weeks in the hospital. Yeah, that's what it's going to be. It may well be. 3 weeks in a veterinary hospital for your dog to recover from a spitting cobra bite. Well, if you're a human, it would be just as bad. So it's a nasty thing.
So what do you do if they've not been bitten, but they've been spat at? What are the...
That is by far the most common thing, especially here where we stay in the Hillcrest area, just on the outlying areas. We get dogs spat at all the time by cobras.
Dreadful.
Yeah, and it's common.
Yeah.
It's not, it looks dreadful.
Yeah.
It's actually not as bad as it looks. And I know this because I've been spat in the eyes by cobras as well. It happens. It is unbearably painful. It's like putting Tabasco in your eye. It is unbelievable. And with the dogs and cats there, their eyelids are different to ours. So they swell up. Ours swell, but theirs swell. So it looks like their whole eyelid has turned inside out. It looks like the eye is gone, and there's just swelling. So okay, so back to the basics. You're at home, you haven't seen the thing happen. There may be a dead snake, but your dog or your cat has got these massive swollen eyes. Take that animal and rinse its eyes under running water. If you don't have, put it in the swimming pool, dip its head. Now the problem with this is your dog is now in pain. Okay? If your dog has never bitten you before, this might be the time your dog bites you. It is painful, particularly if both eyes are gone, because the dog can't even see you, and it is unbearably painful. So you will have to restrain your dog. Don't be surprised if your dog bites you. It is probably going to try. So restrain the dog, rinse the eyes. All you're now currently doing is getting any venom off the surface of the eyes, off the surrounding areas. It's not going to, like, you've rinsed your eyes, no, it's fine.
Perfect.
It's still going to look like...
Terrible.
It's going to look terrible for a while. And when I say a while, a day, 2 days?
Ideally, we'd say come into the practice because we...
That's where we're going.
Okay,
so,
good.
So you've got this dog, you've rinsed the eyes, you've taken the venom off the surface of the eyes and off the surrounding hair off the eyes. So it doesn't drip in later. Or you don't then go and stroke your dog, because now you've stroked your dog. You've seen your dog and you've stroked your dog. Shane, my boy, are you okay? And you're then talking to your wife and you've now got venom in your eyes. Okay. So, and it's bad. So you rinse the dog. Dog, cat is now clean. I would then always suggest take it to a vet. It's not 100% essential, but it's better. If you choose not to take it to the vet, it is going to be sore for a while, sore, like uncomfortably sore. Going to go off its food, its whole head is going to swell up, its eyes are going to swell, its nasal passages are going to swell, it's not going to want to eat, it's going to be uncomfortable for 2 or 3 days. If you take it to the vet, it's going to be sore, it's going to be painful, it's going to be swollen for a couple of days, but they've got supportive medicines, they've got pain-killing eye drops, they've got anesthetic, they've got stuff they can do to support the dog that you can't do at home. Okay. However, what some vets do, and it's contraindicated, but it's still done, is they'll go and put antivenom in the dog's eyes, believing they're neutralizing the venom. There's no need for that. No need at all. The venom is not absorbed into the animal through the eyes. So the antivenom is not helping anymore. And a lot of vets will do it. Now, I definitely do understand it. I mean, it's an old school thinking where you've got venom in the eye, so what do? Antivenom. Makes sense. I mean, it's in the words. But it doesn't do any more good. Okay, so don't do it. It's not necessary.
So unless they've been actually bitten.
Unless they've been bitten. And even if they're bitten and the vet puts antivenom in the dog's eyes, it's not going to absorb through the eyes. Yeah, you do absorb through your eyes, you do, we all know that, but not enough to counteract the snake bite. And the antivenom in the eyes is not going to treat the damage that's done. What's happened is the venom has caused inflammation on the surface of the eyes.
It causes ulceration.
Yeah, correct. And it's not going to cause blindness. It doesn't affect the eye sight. It affects the eye surface and the eyelid's surface. So dogs and cats don't go blind from being spat at. The only way they go blind, when I say that, I sound like they never go blind. They do. If they are left to their own devices and they scratch and itch and rub their eyes on things,
Self-trauma.
they're going to traumatize the eyes, and that will cause the blindness. The venom itself doesn't normally, but it's painful. And to describe the pain, I would have to swear.
Terrible.
Don't want to do that.
So a lot of people want to kill snakes because they don't want to have this situation. Costly and stressful and painful. It's obviously something you would not be advising, or how do you educate people to leave them alone and actually protect them?
Okay, so a bit of background on that. I was raised where we killed snakes when we found snakes when we were young. We were terrified. We didn't know, we then learned, and now we don't. That's my background. So I definitely do understand it. So I'm not coming from a position of somebody who doesn't understand the fear of snakes, where some people are in that position where they can't understand, why would someone be scared of snakes? I understand it. However, when you put any animal in a position where it has to defend itself, it will. And for you, it might not be a matter of life or death. Yes, you're terrified, and I do get that. I understand the terror. But to that snake, it is life or death. It's kill or be killed. And remember, they maybe defend themselves way more often than you ever see a snake. Most of us in our normal daily lives, we see snakes 2 or 3 times a year, tops. Some people more, some people less. They're dealing with danger every single day. So he is ready to defend himself. So if you find a snake, back away from it. Leave it alone. If he has the opportunity to, and I do this, I demonstrate this quite often when I do talks for groups. You put a snake on the floor and you approach it, it runs. If they have the opportunity to run, they will. If they can't, they will bite. And they will spit, and they will thrash, and they will kick, and they will do whatever they possibly can to not be killed. So leave them alone. Have a look at it from a safe distance. Call someone like me who knows a bit more about snakes, and we can then decide what to do from there. And I do understand the killing of snakes. I do. I get it.
Are they killed for any other purposes than just fear?
I'm of the belief if you kill something, you should eat it. You should utilize it. Okay, it's a nice idea, but it's not practical. There are certain communities that will kill and eat snakes. Even locally here, we've got African rock pythons, or southern rock pythons as they're called now, that occur naturally here. And yeah, the people kill them, they eat them. The meat is apparently very much like fish, and then they use the skins for leather or muti purposes or whatever. So generally speaking, snakes are killed out of fear, whether it's based on religion or background or whatever, and very little is actually utilized. That last little bit that I mentioned now, where they eat the meat and they use the skin, that's the smallest amount, sadly. Yeah. So they're generally killed out of fear and religious and background reasons.
And would you say that there's an increase in the population of snakes in the wild, or is it declining?
Now, that's a very interesting question. And you always get the thing, but we're moving into the areas which we are. Human habitation is spreading every single year. There's more and more and more of us. So yes, we are moving more into their areas. Certain species, like the bush snake I showed you, they thrive in suburbia. There are more of them now than there ever have been, ever. There's millions of them. Other species, because they can't thrive in suburbia, they've been pushed out, and there's probably fewer of them. Statistically, there's a few of us that have been doing this for many years, and we chat about this quite often. It looks like there are more snakes around, looks like. And the reason for this is, well, there are a few reasons. Firstly is social media.
Yeah.
Back in the old days when I was doing this, every now and again the newspapers would pick up a story, a big glamour story of me catching a black mamba or something, and that would be the newspaper. Now, every second guy that catches a snake posts it on his social media page, and because it's a snake, it attracts attention. It's fascinating. So we all hear about that guy and this guy and that guy. We're all hearing some of the same stories 4 or 5 times. So it sounds like 4 or 5 snakes. It's not, it's one. And it's me and this guy and the next guy and the other guy all posting similar stories. So it sounds like there's more. Statistically, I'm not catching any more snakes than I ever have. Particularly when you talk about snakes, particularly the big things like the black mambas and the spitting cobras. There's also, funny enough, there's another good mate of mine, we were talking about this the other day, Jason Arnold, and I personally hate catching spitting cobras. I hate it because they spray at you, they're difficult, they're hard to catch, and he's similar. We both have the same feeling about this. We went through a stage of round about 7 years of not catching very many at all, thinking these things have declined, they've gone, they haven't. They were building reinforcements. The past 3 years, I'm back to where I was 25 years ago, where we were catching them in summer on a daily basis. So there's seasonal things. The things that we've had now, the weird weather, the flooding, the snow, all that type of stuff, that affects them. The flooding affects certain snake populations incredibly well because their food is abundant. So it's seasonal. I don't think there's any more or less in nature than there ever was, but the problem is nature is becoming smaller. And suburbia is becoming bigger, and social media is becoming bigger. So I think we're catching the same numbers in different ways.
Interesting. So in parting words, what would you say to people who have an interest in snakes and want to know more?
I think everybody should have an interest in snakes, and everybody should want to know more. I think it's a thing we should. Knowledge is power, and the only reason we are more successful than any other species is because of our knowledge and the fact that we can utilize our brains. The understanding of a danger, a potential danger, makes you a lot more powerful than you were before. I'm not saying all of us need to go out there and be able to catch snakes and cuddle them and stroke them and say, cute little snake. But just understand why they're here. What is he doing? Is he looking for geckos, rats, mice, frogs, whatever? How can we limit their prey items being in our property? Basically, why are they here? What are they doing here? What happens if I should encounter one, and what is my reaction going to be? And I'm certainly not going to say everyone should be happy to have snakes around. I would like that, but it's not practical. I was speaking to a guy who's quite pro monkeys, and people have put up monkey feeding stations, and that's contentious. I'm not going to get into that. But imagine if I loved snakes and I put up a mamba feeding station in suburbia, and we had mambas coming to eat little rats off a feeding table. It would be bad. So I think we need to understand why they're here, what they're doing here, population levels. Just have an interest in your surroundings, what I call a situational awareness. A lot of us just walk around with blinkers on and see kids in school and work and spa and chickers and whatever, and we don't see anything. There's a lot more. So situational awareness, where do you live? Is there prevalence of certain species, and why?
Respectful understanding.
Respectful understanding of nature as well. Of everything in nature, frogs, lizards, rats, cockroaches, whatever is around there, is to understand why they're there. And also just to deal with them back to cockroaches, deal with why are they there, rather than trying to kill each individual cockroach. Why are you having snakes or rats or cockroaches? Deal with the source of the problem.
And to engage with the experts and the professionals in that area too.
And also to be aware that even though you have an interest and maybe a bit of a knowledge, it is a dangerous thing. I can change a light bulb. I cannot rewire a house. Okay, so you need to know your limits. You know a little bit about them. You've seen a house snake, you've seen a bush snake, you know them. You cannot deal with them as a normal human being.
And if you have an interest in wanting to handle them more,
So the interwebs is a lovely place as well. You can go and watch a variety of people with YouTube channels handling snakes. I think a lot of them are a bit more dangerous than informative. There are pet shops that keep snakes and animals, so you can often go and volunteer there on a weekend to go and help and see. Snake parks are becoming fewer and further between, and I think that's probably actually it's a sign of the times. Learn as much as you possibly can before you even try picking anything up. So go find a mentor, find someone, a person like me who keeps snakes. If I have a youngster who wants to come around to my house to clean snake cages, my boy, come, my girl, come, let's go clean snake cages. It's a thing. So find somebody who's willing to let you in, someone who's willing to help you learn. And there's normally going to be someone. Just expand your field of interest.
Fascinating. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
No,
I could sit all day and talk about
Likewise,
the subject, but that's very useful information, and hopefully for our listeners it'll be a good resource for extending their interest and hopefully from an educational perspective in terms
thanks
of
so much for having me here.
improving
And
things.
we could talk all day on this. There's so much to say.
Thanks, Byron.
We have an exciting announcement to make. We are looking for guest speakers who are passionate about the pet industry and sponsors to support future episodes. Are you an expert in pet training, nutrition, or behavior? Maybe you're a veterinarian with insights to share, a pet store owner with unique experiences, or a pet product inventor. We want to hear from you. The Paws Effect podcast is a platform for industry professionals like you to showcase your knowledge, experiences, and stories. As a guest speaker on our podcast, you'll have the opportunity to share valuable information, engage with our audience, and have your voice heard in the pet community. Whether you want to discuss training techniques, emerging pet care trends, or the importance of mental stimulation for pets, we want to feature you and your expertise. So, if you're passionate about pets and have something to say, we invite you to join us on an upcoming episode of the Paws Effect podcast. But wait, that's not all. The Paws Effect podcast is also seeking sponsors to support our mission of educating and entertaining pet lovers worldwide. By becoming a sponsor, you'll gain exposure to our engaged audience and have your brand associated with the love and care that we have for our four-legged friends. If you own a pet-related business, offer pet products or services, or simply want to align your brand with our pet-loving community, we'd love to partner with you. As a sponsor, your brand will be featured prominently in our episodes and our social media channels. It is a great opportunity to showcase your offerings to a dedicated audience of pet enthusiasts. So whether you're an expert in the pet industry looking to share your knowledge, or a business seeking to reach a pet-loving audience, we want to hear from you. To apply as a guest or to inquire about becoming a sponsor of the Paws Effect podcast, please contact me at Dr. Carra at pawsandeffect.co.za. Get in touch and let's discuss the various opportunities. Thank you for joining us today. We can't wait to welcome our future guest speakers and sponsors to the Paws Effect podcast. Remember, every episode is an opportunity to celebrate our four-legged friends.